Imagine for a second that the entire universe, everything we see, the stars, the microscopic cells, all the laws of physics, imagine it's all actually a game.
Okay.
But not just any game. It's a game of hide and seek.
And in this version of the game, I'm guessing the stakes are incredibly high.
Exactly. The idea is that the creator intentionally hid the secrets of nature and truth. Not to keep them away from us, like some miser hoarding gold, but to see if we were smart enough and determined enough to find them. It's a nice thought, isn't it? That the mystery of life is actually an invitation to play.
It is a beautiful concept. But for the subject of our deep dive today, this wasn't just some nice philosophical idea. It was what he called the divine plan. And we aren't just talking about abstract ideas here. We're digging into a very specific, very historical theory. A theory that claims one man took that cosmic game of hide and seek and built an entire global fraternity around it.
We are diving deep into Bacon Masonry, a book written back in 1954 by George Tudhope. And if you like secret societies, royal scandals, and a bit of 17th century code breaking, you are going to want to pull up a chair. Because Tudhope makes a massive claim that Sir Francis Bacon, the famous philosopher, statesman, the guy who basically invented the scientific method, was not only the secret founder of Freemasonry,
but that he was also, and this is the part that usually stops people in their tracks, a secret prince of England.
the ultimate double life. So our mission today is to unpack Tudhope's argument. We're going to look at this divine plan, the search for the lost word, and the visual codes that supposedly prove Bacon was royalty hiding in plain sight.
And just a quick disclaimer before we start. We are exploring George Tudhope's theories, his interpretation of the evidence. He connects dots that, let's say, mainstream historians often keep very separate. Our job today is just to walk through his logic, unbiased, and see how he builds this case.
Okay, let's get into it. We started with that idea of hide and seek. Tudhope calls this the divine plan. What exactly does he mean by that?
Well, Tudhope argues that Bacon saw the world through a very specific lens, both theological and scientific. He believed that in the beginning, the sublime mass-bred God concealed everything in universal nature. But the point of this concealment wasn't to trick humanity. It was for the glory and pleasure of his children to seek it all out.
It's like a parent hiding Easter eggs. The point isn't the hiding, it's the joy of the finding.
Precisely. And to illustrate this, Tudhope brings up Aesop's fable about the father and the vineyard. This is a story Bacon would have known very well, and he actually references it in his own writing.
I think I know this one. The one with the dying father and his sons.
That's the one. A father is on his deathbed. He calls his sons in, and he tells them there's a great mass of gold buried somewhere in the family vineyard. He dies, and the sons, well, they go absolutely crazy. They grab shovels and they dig up every single square inch of that land looking for this treasure.
They turn over every rock, every clod of dirt.
And they find absolutely no gold. Zero. But because they turn the soil so thoroughly, aerating the roots and working the land, the vines produced a massive, record-breaking vintage the next year. They got rich, not from the gold, but from the fruit of their labor.
That is the perfect analogy. The gold was a lie, or maybe just a distraction, but the digging is what created the real value.
And Tudhope applies this directly to Freemasonry. He argues that the central quest of Masonry, this search for the lost word, is exactly like that fable. The word is concealed not just to be found, but to stimulate the search itself. If you just give someone the answer, they don't learn anything. But by making them dig for it, they cultivate their minds.
Okay, so let's talk about this lost word. In the lore of Freemasonry, there's a word that was lost, and Masons are supposedly searching for it. Does Tudhope tell us what it is?
He does, and this is where it gets really fascinating. According to Tudhope, Bacon explicitly reveals that the name of the lost word is light.
Light. Like illumination, knowledge.
Both. In the context of the source material, it represents the move from darkness to understanding. But Tudhope points out something very specific about how Bacon uses language to signal this. He draws our attention to a distinction Bacon makes between the word compass and compasses.
Wait, like the tool, the thing you draw circles with in geometry class.
Yes, but pay very close attention to the grammar. This is where Tudhope really gets into the weeds, but it's crucial. He notes that when Bacon refers to the actual mechanical instrument, the tool for drawing, he always uses the plural compasses.
Okay. Hand me the compasses. That makes sense, like scissors or pants.
Exactly. But when Bacon uses the singular compass, he is using it symbolically.
Symbolically how?
To mean the circumscribing of desires or the range and extent of one's knowledge. It's a mental compass. Tudhope quotes Bacon's advancement of learning to prove this. Bacon writes, But as the navigation was imperfect before the use of the compass, so will many secrets of nature and art remain undiscovered.
Ah, I see it. In that quote, he's comparing the magnetic compass, which guides a ship, to a mental compass that guides the mind.
Exactly. Tudhope argues this was a deliberate signal to Masons. When they see the symbol of the compass in their lodge, which is one of their primary symbols, they weren't supposed to just think of a geometry tool. They're supposed to think of the mental compass, the tool used to navigate the secrets of nature and art.
So it's a linguistic clue, left by the founder to tell them how to interpret the symbols. It's like he's teaching them how to read the code while they're reading it.
That's the theory. Bacon was a lawyer, a linguist. He didn't use words by accident. If he dropped the E's and made it singular, it meant something different.
That is. Wow, that's subtle. But let's play devil's advocate for a second. We have this philosophy of the divine plan and the search for light. But how do we get from Bacon-liked metaphors to Bacon literally invented Freemasonry?
That brings us to the timeline and to the structure of the organization itself. Tudhope lays out the dates, and they're quite compelling. Francis Bacon lived from 1561 to 1626.
Okay, late Elizabethan, early Jacobean era, Shakespeare's time.
Right. Now, historically, we know Masons were originally just that. Masons, stone builders,
Yeah.
operative Masons who built cathedrals and castles. But at some point, the organization changed. It stopped being about cutting stone and started being about philosophy and morality. That's called speculative Masonry.
The shift from building walls to building character.
Exactly. And Tudhope points out that the first non-operative lodge, where you have thinkers joining, not just builders, was meeting around 1620, or maybe as early as 1590.
Which is smack in the middle of Bacon's adult life.
Bacon's life perfectly spans this transition. But the strongest evidence, according to Tudhope, isn't just the timing, it's the text. He directs us to the Masonic Monitor.
For those who don't know, the Monitor is basically the instruction manual for Masons, right?
Correct. It contains the lectures, the instructions. And there's a section in the Monitor under geometry that explains why the society exists. It says that observing nature and its beautiful proportions first determined man to imitate the divine plan and study symmetry and order. And then it says, this gave rise to societies.
Determined man to imitate the divine plan. We're back to that exact phrase again.
We are. And here is Tudhope's deduction. He claims that in all of literature, there's only one man who wrote extensively about this specific concept, that man observes nature to imitate God's plan, and that this imitation should lead to societies being formed. That man was Francis Bacon.
So, if the Masonic Manual uses Bacon's specific philosophy to explain its own origin,
Then Bacon must be the author. Tudhope argues that only the creator of a society could claim it was formed to imitate the divine plan. Anyone else writing it would just be guessing. But Bacon wrote about this imitation as a primary goal of his entire life.
this connects to his great instauration, doesn't it? I love that term. It sounds like a blockbuster movie title.
It really does. The Great Instauration was Bacon's life project. It means a restoration after decay. He wanted to rebuild human knowledge from the ground up. Tudhope's argument is that Freemasonry was the vehicle Bacon built to ensure this advancement of learning continued long after he died. He knew he wouldn't finish the job himself, so he built an organization to keep digging in the vineyard.
He crowdsourced the Great Instauration. That's actually brilliant. But okay, let's pivot. Because Tudhope doesn't stop at Bacon the founder. He goes somewhere much more controversial. He claims Bacon was the prince.
Yes, and this is where the detective work shifts from text to visuals. Tudhope analyzes a specific artifact, the title page of the 1624 Paris edition of Bacon's book, De Dignitate et Augmentis Scientiarum.
Okay, I'm picturing an old, dusty book cover with these intricate engravings. What are we looking at?
It's a very complex image, but Tudhope zooms in on a small oval at the bottom of the page. Inside this oval are the letters I M.
Just I and M.
Just I and M. Now, in Latin, I am can be read as is or anit, but in English it reads as I am.
I am, okay.
But look where those letters are placed. They are superimposed over a symbol that looks like an operative Mason's mark specifically, a kind of square and compass variation. So, Tudhope reads this as a rebus puzzle. The message is, I am an operative Mason.
I am an operative Mason. So he's claiming membership. But where does the royal part come in?
That's in the larger oval right above it. This oval contains a fleur-de-lis and a coronet.
A coronet is a small crown, right?
Yes, and specifically, the fleur-de-lis and coronet were symbols associated with the royal arms of England and the Prince of Wales. Tudhope is very firm on this. You do not just accidentally put a prince's coronet on your book cover. in 1624.
No, that sounds like a good way to get in a lot of trouble if it's not true.
Exactly. So if you
Really?
combine the symbols, the message becomes, I am of royal blood, I am a prince. Tudhope believes Bacon is telling us he is the secret son of Queen Elizabeth.
Whoa. The Virgin Queen having a secret son, that changes. Well, that changes everything.
It would have been a secret so dangerous that revealing it during his lifetime would have meant execution, treason. That's why it had to be hidden in a cipher.
But if he was the prince, why hide it? Why not just claim the throne?
Well, because if he was illegitimate, or if the marriage was secret, acknowledging him would destabilize the entire monarchy. He had to be hidden. And the title page has even more evidence of this family dynamic. Tudhope describes the figures in the corners. In the bottom right, there's a woman emptying a horn of plenty. Tudhope identifies her as Queen Elizabeth, his mother, who provided his substance, or plenty, during his early life.
And the other figures?
At the top, there are two children reaching out toward a winged head in the center. Tudhope identifies the winged head as Queen Elizabeth again, but this time she has wings because she had died by 1624. She has passed on.
It's a family portrait disguised as a book cover. That's incredibly poignant.
It is. And to drive the point home, Tudhope contrasts this 1624 Paris edition with the 1623 London edition. The London version didn't have this family portrait. Instead, its title page showed a naked, burning heart surrounded by a wreath.
A burning heart. That sounds painful.
Tudhope interprets it as a sign of distress. He says it represents Bacon's intense pain at being cast off and rejected by his mother, the Queen. He was a prince who could never claim his throne.
That is tragic. You have this guy who is arguably the smartest man in Europe building this massive fraternity to save human knowledge, all while holding on to this secret identity that he can only whisper about in codes on a title page.
It creates this picture of a man living two completely different lives. One public, as the statesman and philosopher, one secret, as the royal architect. And according to Tudhope, this duality extends even to his death.
Yes, the feigned death theory. I read this part of the source material and my jaw dropped. We're always told he died of pneumonia after stuffing a chicken with snow, right?
That is the official story. Easter Sunday, 1626. But Tudhope suggests this death may have been faked. He suggests Bacon might have escaped to the continent to live out his years under an assumed name.
But why fake his death?
Well, if the political heat was too high, you have to remember he had enemies. Or if he just wanted to dedicate his final years purely to his studies without the burden of his public persona, it would be the ultimate hiding in the game of hide-and-seek.
It really is. It's the final move in imitating the divine plan. He lost himself so completely that we're still looking for him 400 years later.
And that brings us to his legacy. Tudhope quotes Dr. W. Raleigh, who was Bacon's chaplain and secretary. And Raleigh said something really profound about Bacon. He said, "If there were a beam of knowledge derived from God upon any man in these modern times, it was upon him."
He calls him the jeweled brain, right?
Yes, the jeweled brain among the Illuminati. Tudhope's summary of all the evidence is that everything, the symbols, the timing, the philosophy of the divine plan, the I am ciphers, it all points to one man. He believes Bacon left Freemasonry as a living repository for his secrets and his science.
It's a lot to take in. I mean, the idea of one guy being behind all of this.
It is a dense theory. And whether you accept the royal Bacon lineage or not, Tudhope makes a point that I think is undeniably true. He says the golden books decorating the shelves of Masonic libraries, all those authors searching for the lost word, they added to the common stock of knowledge.
Right. They didn't find the word just like the Suns didn't find the gold, but they produced the vintage.
Exactly. The search was the point. Freemasonry, in Tudhope's view, succeeded in Bacon's goal of advancing learning, regardless of whether the members ever knew who the true founder was.
So what does this all mean for us, listening today? Most of us aren't Masons and we aren't Elizabethan scholars.
I think the takeaway is about attention. Bacon believed that nature shows herself best in her smallest works. He said the divine artificer hangs the greatest weights upon the smallest strings.
Small strings holding great weights. I like that.
Tudhope used that philosophy to find a prince in a title page doodle and a whole philosophy in a grammar choice. It challenges us to look closer at the things we take for granted.
It makes you wonder what else is hiding in plain sight. If a compass isn't just a compass and a date isn't just a date, what are we missing in our own game of hide and seek right now?
That is the question. If Bacon hid his identity and the word to imitate God's method of hiding secrets, are there other insignificant emblems in history holding the weight of truths we just haven't noticed yet?
A provocative thought to leave you with. Keep digging in your own vineyards, everyone. You never know what vintage you might produce. Thanks for diving deep with us.
It's been a pleasure.
See you next time.